A little boy named Kid was listening to the tales of Hanuman. In the story, Hanuman was depicted as a monkey man punished by the gods for swallowing the sun. But Hanuman could pass all the punishments steadfastly, so he was crowned as a protector and savior of devotees. Kid was amazed to hear this story and wanted to become strong like Hanuman. Unfortunately, Kid never heard the rest of the story about Hanuman after his village was destroyed by corrupt police. They even had the heart to massacre all the villagers, including Kid's mother. 20 years later, Kid grew up as an independent man, becoming a street fighter. Every time he competes, he always wears a Hanuman mask, hoping that he can be as strong as Hanuman. But otherwise, he actually became the weakest fighter in the arena with dozens of defeats. But he's not really weak because sometimes he was forced to give in to his opponents for the gambling business, since he needed money to survive and fulfill his daily needs. Sadly, Kid's boss, Tiger, always gave him a small wage. Tiger was a mafia man who was stingy with his men, even though he earned a large income from his boxing business. As a commoner, Kid could only surrender. Even when Tiger looked down on him, he didn't fight at all. Returning from the arena, Kid stopped by at a food stall for dinner. He saw the news on television showing a spiritual guru named Baba Shakti. He's a highly respected figure in India. Many people like commoners, officials, and mafia really respected him. He was even close to the president and able to control politics in that country. Kid didn't seem to care about the news, especially in politics. Besides, a man like Baba Shakti was just greedy and pretended to be good in front of the camera. Not long after, a boy approached Kid, and he was an informant who had been helping Kid to find his mother's murderer. The boy said if Kid wanted to find his mother's murderer, he had to approach a woman named Kapoor. The boy admitted that according to the information he got, Kapoor was one of the most powerful mafias in Mumbai. The next day, Kapoor was enjoying her morning coffee in front of a cafe. Then there was a beggar in a wheelchair begging in front of her. Kapoor felt disgusted with the beggar and immediately threw him out. But shockingly, the wheelchair was a diversion because the beggar was a leader of a pickpocketing syndicate. Quickly, he moved Kapoor's purse to the person who hired him. The mastermind of this pickpocketing was Kid, as he planned to use the purse to get close to Kapoor. That night, Kid took the purse to Kapoor's nightclub and intended to return it. Luckily, Kid was allowed to enter Kapoor's room. Seeing her wallet back, Kapoor gave Kid some money as a thank you. But Kid wasn't after money. Instead, he asked for a job at the club. To prove his skills, Kid showed his palm hand full of scars. This proved that all this time, he had always lived a difficult life and never complained. He also promised that he would do any job as long as Kapoor was willing to accept him. Seeing the honesty and struggle, Kapoor was willing to accept Kid. At the same time, Kid was very shocked when he saw the photo of Kapoor with her husband, because Kapoor's husband was the policeman who had killed his mother. After seeing the photo, Kid imagined his mother's face, and this made him even more convinced to take revenge. Long story short, Kid started to work as a janitor in the kitchen at the club. Here he disguised himself as Bobby, so that his true identity wasn't revealed, because if that happened, then his revenge mission could fail. On his first day, Kid got to know a kitchen supervisor, Alfonso. Kid didn't like this man because he talked too much. After work, Kid stopped by at the nearest roadside stall, and the owner was an informant. Kid asked him about a place to buy weapons. Hearing that, the stall owner ordered his son to accompany Kid to that place. With his limited money, Kid wanted to buy a small but deadly gun. The weapons seller gave him two choices. The first was an imitation gun from the John Wick film made in China, while the second was a .38 caliber gun, which had a classic model and a little heavier. After considering it, Kid decided to buy a .38 caliber pistol because he thought this weapon was more comfortable to hold and suitable for close combat. Next day, Kid went back to work as usual. When he was about to deliver tea for Kapoor, he saw her scolding a call girl named Sita. Here, Sita was considered to have disappointed a VIP customer. Not long after that, Alfonso entered Kapoor's room to discuss something. It was seen that Alfonso was Kapoor's confidant. In fact, Kapoor gave him a job of carrying out illegal transactions. Of course, this kind of job couldn't be given to random people. After knowing this, Kid tried to approach Alfonso so that he could get a promotion to work in the VIP room. That way, he could meet Kapoor's husband and everyone involved in his mother's murder. Alfonso initially didn't want to help because he wouldn't get any returns. So Kid told him to come to the fighting arena and place a bet, because tonight he would fight in 2 rounds. If Alfonso placed a bet on his opponent, then he would get a big profit. Hearing the offer, Alfonso was willing to help Kid with anything. In the middle of the fight, Kid saw his mother's shadow between the audience. Because of that, his revenge was getting stronger and he needed more adrenaline. So, he ordered his opponent to hit his face as hard as possible. Thanks to the fight, Alfonso ended up gaining big profit. He also succeeded in persuading Kapoor to promote Kid as a VIP waiter. Alfonso then showed all the guests in the room, from the ministers, politicians, to the mafias. However, Kapoor's husband was always in a private room and rarely gathered with other officials. On his second day of work as a VIP waiter, Kid served a VIP guest who was with Sita. But it seemed like Sita was quite uncomfortable and was forced to accompany that man. Seeing this, Kid felt annoyed and wanted to beat him up. Moreover, his mother had also been raped before Kapoor's husband killed her. Kid finally chose to be alone, calming himself down behind the club. A dog approached him and Kid immediately felt calmer because he's an animal lover. Not long after, Sita came and thanked him for showing empathy and not pretending to be a hero, because if Kid didn't control his emotions, Sita might have been fired and became jobless. Like it or not, Kid had to accept all this in order to avenge his mother's murderer. While waiting for the right moment, Kid started to train his physical and shooting skills. When he was ready, Kid asked Alfonso to be allowed to enter Kapoor's party room. Alfonso allowed him easily because he was close to Kid now. Alfonso gave Kid some drugs to be delivered to the guests' tables. At that place, Kid finally saw the person who killed his mother. He's a police inspector named Rana Singh. Kid's hands suddenly trembled. Even the scars on his hands started to hurt. He tried hard to calm himself down in the toilet. Even though he really wanted to kill Rana, he didn't want to act rashly. At that time, Sita also saw the gun Kid had brought into the room. Kid decided to mix the drugs, and Rana immediately went to the toilet because his nose was bleeding. Without him realizing, Kid was already there pointing a gun at him. But when Kid was about to kill Rana, suddenly he was attacked. Kid didn't want to surrender, so he fought back and made Rana overwhelmed. Unfortunately, Rana's men arrived, which forced Kid to leave before completing his revenge. But he was confronted by many guards ordered to kill him. Kid then hid in the parking lot and tricked Rana's men by sticking blood on one of the cars. That's when Kid ran away with a rickshaw, and Rana's men chased him. Unexpectedly, the rickshaw had NOS so Kid and Alfonso could escape from Rana's men. But they were forced to brake because they almost hit a Kid, and this made them distracted. Finally, Kid was caught by the corrupt police, while Alfonso disappeared. But on the way, Kid woke up from his faintness and immediately attacked all of Rana's men. Kid then ran away through the nearest stall, but unfortunately, he was actually caught by a gangster boss who thought that Kid was deliberately luring the police. At first, Kid didn't want to fight the gangster boss, especially since he was already seriously injured, but because he was desperate, he was forced to fight him. After finishing off the gangsters, Kid immediately got out of there while avoiding the police, but this time, he was surrounded from all sides, and in the end, he had to stop running away. The scene flashes back to 20 years ago. At that time, Kid lived alone with his mother after his father died. Since he was a kid, he was always told about Hanuman, who's still his biggest inspiration to this day. His mother also hoped that Kid could be a good person and willing to fight for the weak. If only his mother was still around, Kid might grow up to be a brilliant young man and live happily. But unfortunately, he wasn't happy because he's already dominated by revenge. Back to the present time, Kid wakes up in a dark temple and is surrounded by mysterious people. Unexpectedly, they actually treat the wounds on Kid's body. The next day, Kid woke up and his condition improved. All his wounds had been neatly stitched and looked normal. There, Kid was looked after by a transgender named Alpha, who was a member of the Hydra community. Hydra is a group of transgender, and they are ostracized by the community. Despite this, they still live in harmony and unity. Alpha said that he found Kid on the riverbank with a gunshot wound in his stomach. He felt sorry for Kid, then treated him at the temple. For now, Alpha suggested that Kid hide in this place because he has become a fugitive. In another place, Rana visited Baba Shakti's temple. It was revealed that Baba Shakti was the mastermind of the village eviction, including Kid's mother murder. Rana reported that Kid had just attacked him, so he brought up the eviction of the village 20 years ago. Hearing this, Baba Shakti told Rana to immediately finish off Kid before he took revenge, especially since the elections would be held in the near future. If Baba Shakti's crime was revealed, then the candidate promoted by him could fail in the election at the same time. Alfonso was at a food stall after running away from the police. He saw the news on TV, saying that Kid was a terrorist who wanted to kill officials. Meanwhile, Alpha invited Kid to attend a party held by the Hydra community. For some reason, Kid felt very happy to see them together, because in his entire life he had never felt love from his family, except from his mother. But it was a shame that the only family he had was killed by greedy people. When it was late at night, Kid couldn't sleep. He told Alpha that for the last 20 years, he had always heard his mother's screams. Kid thought that the scream was a sign that he had to immediately take revenge, but he was too weak to fight against Rana and his men. Hearing this, Alpha tried to provide a solution. Alpha then took Kid to a garden with a large tree. They believed that the tree had been blessed by Shiva, the god of destruction. Even its roots could be used as a potion to strengthen humans. Alpha made the potion to help Kid defeat Rana and his men. After eating the potion, the muscles in Kid's body became bigger and stronger. Suddenly, his last memories with his mother came back. At that time, he and his mother were watching a puppet show telling the story of Hanuman. But after that, Rana and his men came fully armed. This corrupt police was ordered by Baba Shakti to evict all the buildings in the village. Later, the mafia would build their business places there, such as casinos and bars. Not only that, Baba Shakti also ordered Rana to slaughter everyone who got in his way. Rana and his men cruelly burned villagers alive and destroyed their houses. Meanwhile, Kid and his mother went into the house and locked the door tightly. Before the police came, Kid's mother told Kid to hide in the cupboard until the situation was safe. But at the same time, Rana came to the house, tortured, and even raped Kid's mother. Rana burned her body without feeling guilty, and when he saw this, Kid came out of hiding and tried to save his mother, making his hands burn. Since that night, Kid never forgot Rana's face and name. Kid suddenly woke up from his daydream, then looked at the burnt wound on his hand, saying that he was the cause of his mother's death. But Alpha convinced him that the one who had to bear the sin was Rana and Baba Shakti. From now on, Kid must get through the pain, just like Hanuman passed the punishment from the gods. After that, he could definitely protect himself and people in need. The next day, Kid started practicing his punches, and this time, he didn't want to be a loser anymore. Whatever would happen, he would get through it bravely, especially when fighting Rana and his men. 3 months later, Kid attended the campaign event held by Baba Shakti. Here, Baba Shakti invited the public to vote for one of the mayoral candidates. He said that the candidate is someone who cares about humanity and anti-violence like him. Even though all this time, Baba Shakti has slaughtered many people through Rana, and this made Kid even more convinced to kill those evil people. That night, Kid heard a scream from inside the temple. One of the Hydra members was being persecuted by Baba Shakti and Samiti's men. She said that they would soon evict the Hydra temple. Hearing this, Kid decided to return to town, but before leaving, he stole Alpha's savings to double it in Tiger's boxing arena. Kid went to the arena to test his strength. In fact, he challenged one of the strongest fighters there, and without saying much, the fierce fight began. Kid was able to defeat his opponent with just one kick. In fact, his opponent was unable to get up again because the kick was so strong. Seeing Kid's victory, Tiger couldn't accept it because it could make him lose. Finally, he called a fighter whose body was very big. But again, Kid showed his extraordinary skills. Kid succeeded in defeating the big guy, and the audience clapped, calling Kid a monkey man. After the fight, Kid gave his money to Alpha and the others, including a letter. In the letter, he wanted to thank the Hydra community, who have taken good care of him, and he also considered them as family. In another place, Baba Shakti was holding a party at Kapoor's nightclub with the mayoral candidate and the mafia. From a distance, Kid monitored their movements, still wearing a monkey mask. While the police were focused on securing the event, Kid entered through the back lane and started killing the guards. Kid entered the kitchen and beat up Rana's men using kitchen utensils. Kid also made a bomb using a gas cylinder to attack the people, but before that he beat up the 2 guards who were in his way. Cruelly, Kid attacked them, finishing them off. After that, Kid ignited the bomb he had made, and this huge chaos happened. Rana and Baba were worried. They didn't think that Kid was still alive, and was able to break through the guards. While people panicked, Kid set off fireworks to cause more chaos. Unfortunately, Rana sent 50 of his men to fight Kid. At this point, Kid was ready for all the consequences he would face. But at the same time, Alpha came, bringing the best fighters from the Hydra people. They also brought complete weapons, including dynamite. Kid became even more enthusiastic to slaughter all of Rana's men. After successfully slaughtering Rana's men, Kapoor shot Kid and his friends, but suddenly Sita hit her. Even though she was able to knock out Kapoor, Sita looked very shocked because she had never hurt anyone before. Kid tried to calm her down, then cut off Kapoor's finger so he could get into the top floor, which has a high-level security system. He also told Alpha to take good care of Sita. Long story short, Kid finally got to the top floor. There he only saw hundreds of mirrors hanging on the ceiling. When he was looking for Rana and Baba, Rana appeared and immediately attacked him. Because all his men had died, Rana challenged Kid to a deadly duel. But before fighting, Rana brought up the death of Kid's mother, and of course this was a big mistake because it made Kid even more violent. While remembering his late mother, Kid beat Rana continuously. Even though he had killed Rana, his revenge wasn't over yet. This time, he would avenge all the massacred villagers. The person who must pay this was Baba Shakti, but this ruthless spiritual guru used suggestion tricks so that Kid focused on listening to what he said. Baba Shakti secretly took out a nail and stabbed Kid in the stomach, but fortunately Kid was still able to survive and fought back. At the end, Kid looked at the Hanuman painting while remembering his late mother. From now on, he would live as the Monkey Man, devoted to Hanuman and ready to protect all the people. The end.